Typhoons, the one thing that scares even the most adventurous traveler in the Philippines. But what if I told you there are places here where typhoons almost never hit? Spots so safe, they feel like a different country altogether. Today, I'm counting down the top 10 safest places in the Philippines where you can relax, explore, and enjoy island life without constantly worrying about storm warnings. And yes, these aren't just random spots on the map. These are locations backed by decades of weather history. One of them is so hidden, most tourists skip it completely, which is exactly why it's still paradise. But we'll get to that in a minute. 10. General Santos City, South Cotabato. Nicknamed the tuna capital of the Philippines, General Santos sits far south, away from the Pacific typhoon belt. Here, your biggest worry isn't a storm. It's deciding between fresh sashimi or grilled tuna for dinner. General Santos is situated in the southern part of the Philippines on the island of Mindanao, which lies outside the usual typhoon belt that primarily affects the northern and eastern regions of the country. Most typhoons in the Philippines approach from the Pacific Ocean and hit Luzon and the eastern parts of the Visayas and Mindanao. The city has a tropical monsoon climate characterized by a distinct rainy season from June to October and a relatively dry season from February to April. Despite a high amount of rainfall annually, around 243 millimeters monthly during rainy months, the typhoon incidence is low. This is because typhoons generally follow paths further north and east, sparing Ginsan from the more severe direct hits. While the city can have occasional storms and heavy rains, major destructive typhoons are very rare in General Santos. Historical records show that only a few typhoons have affected the city, and it is generally viewed as a safer area in terms of natural disasters like typhoons compared to other parts of the Philippines. Being located at an elevation of about 16 meters above sea level with prevailing winds influenced by monsoons, the city does not experience the same cyclone intensity as those coastal and northern regions facing the Pacific Ocean. In summary, General Santos City's location outside the principal typhoon track and its tropical monsoon climate contribute to its reputation as one of the safest places from typhoons in the Philippines. 9. Zamboanga City. Down in the western tip of Mindanao, Zamboanga is more famous for its Spanish heritage and pink beaches than bad weather. Typhoons, almost unheard of here. However, its safety is nuanced. There remain concerns about risks such as kidnapping, especially in the broader region including nearby Basilan Island, which affects the perception of safety for foreigners. Travel advisories from foreign governments still caution about terrorism, kidnappings, and violent clashes in western Mindanao, which includes the Zamboanga Peninsula, indicating that visitors should exercise caution and awareness of their surroundings. Regarding typhoons, Zamboanga City lies in the southwestern part of the Philippines, on the Zamboanga Peninsula in Mindanao. This location is generally outside the main typhoon belt that affects northern and central parts of the country, which face most typhoon impacts. The typhoons that hit the Philippines tend to travel west to northwest through the eastern and central regions, sparing Zamboanga from direct hits. This geographic positioning largely explains why Zamboanga City is one of the areas in the Philippines where typhoons typically do not hit. Zamboanga City is geographically less exposed to typhoons due to its location in southern Mindanao, away from the usual typhoon paths. It is considered safer than many Philippine cities in crime terms, especially compared to Metro Manila, but still has risks related to kidnapping and terrorism tied to the broader Mindanao region. Travel caution is advised due to regional security concerns, but daily life in Zamboanga City is described as generally peaceful by long-term residents. 8. Davao City, Davao del Sur. Davao isn't just one of the cleanest and safest cities in the country, it's also well outside the typhoon belt. Locals joke that the weather here is as chill as the people. Davao City and Davao del Sur are considered among the safest places in the Philippines primarily due to their strong culture of security, effective local governance, and community participation in maintaining peace and order. Davao City, in particular, was ranked the second safest city in the Philippines for 2025 by the World Travel Index. It scored high on safety indicators including daytime safety, around 89%, nighttime safety, around 83%, low theft rates, low drug problems, and low violence rates. A well-enforced culture of security program encouraging residents to report suspicious activity and cooperate with law enforcement. A combination of high-visibility law enforcement, emergency response systems, and community-driven initiatives. Local government ordinances such as CCTV monitoring, curfew for minors, and interagency checkpoints. Active citizen involvement in peace-building and crime prevention efforts. Regarding typhoons, Davao City and Davao del Sur are geographically located in Mindanao, an area that is generally less prone to typhoons compared to the northern and central parts of the Philippines. Typhoons typically enter the country from the eastern seaboard and mostly affect Luzon and the Visayas regions. Mindanao's southern location shields it from the majority of typhoons, making Davao one of the few areas rarely impacted by these storms. Thus, the relative safety of Davao City and Davao del Sur comes from both low crime rates due to effective governance and community vigilance, and minimal natural disaster risk from typhoons due to geographic location. This unique combination makes the area notably safe compared to many other parts of the Philippines. 7. Cotabato City. Quiet, culturally rich, and far from the storms, Cotabato City enjoys a natural shield thanks to its inland location. Cotabato City is considered one of the safest places in its region, Region 12, due to significant improvements in peace and order, marked by a dramatic drop in crime rates, effective law enforcement practices like mayor-led nightly patrols, and a growing sense of security among residents. These security gains have attracted new investments and economic growth to the city. Regarding typhoons, Cotabato City in Mindanao is geographically located in a part of the Philippines that is less frequently hit by typhoons. Most typhoons hit the northern and eastern parts of the Philippines, particularly Luzon and the eastern Visayas, while Mindanao, including Cotabato City, lies outside the main typhoon paths because of its southern location in the archipelago. Thus, Cotabato City experiences fewer impacts from typhoons compared to northern regions. Cotabato City ranks high in safety within its region due to reduced crime, effective policing, and improved community stability. It benefits climatically from its geographic location in southern Mindanao, where typhoon occurrence is rare, making it less prone to typhoon impacts compared to much of the Philippines. This combination of improved security and natural geographical advantage contributes to Cotabato City's reputation as one of the safer and typhoon-resilient places in the Philippines. 6. Basilan Island. An underrated gem with turquoise waters and peaceful fishing villages. Typhoon-free almost year-round, Basilan feels like a private tropical escape. Regarding typhoons, the main reason Basilan and many southern Mindanao islands, including those in the Sulu archipelago, tend to avoid typhoons is their geographical location. Basilan is located in the southern Philippines, in the Sulu archipelago, south of the usual typhoon belt that typically affects the northern and central parts of the country. Most typhoons form in the Pacific and move west-northwest, generally affecting Luzon and the Visayas more severely. By contrast, Basilan is situated closer to the equator and westward, which naturally makes it less prone to direct typhoon hits. Basilan Island is considered relatively safer now due to peace processes and improved local security, not because of the lack of conflict alone, but combined with better governance and reduced extremist threats. It is geographically positioned outside the typical typhoon paths affecting most of the Philippines, which makes it less likely to be hit by typhoons compared to many northern and central islands. The perception of safety regarding typhoons is due to its location in the southern part of the Philippines, where typhoons rarely strike. This geographical aspect combined with improved security measures contributes to the notion of Basilan being a safer place where typhoons do not usually hit. However, broader safety advisories from some governments still caution about security risks related to conflict rather than natural disasters. 5. South Cotabato, Lake Cebu. At 1,000 meters above sea level, Lake Cebu is not just storm-safe, but also cool and refreshing, a welcome break from tropical heat. This geographical setting reduces the direct impact of typhoons that usually hit coastal regions. However, it is important to note that Lake Cebu still experiences heavy rains, localized thunderstorms, and related hazards like flash floods and landslides, as reported in recent years. Lake Cebu lies in the southern part of Mindanao, an island that is less frequently struck by typhoons compared to northern and eastern parts of the Philippines. The province of South Cotabato is shielded by highlands and mountains that moderate the storm effects. The area's inland and mountainous location means typhoons passing by often lose strength before reaching it, reducing strong typhoon winds. Despite this, the area can still experience significant rain from low-pressure areas and thunderstorms, occasionally causing flooding and landslides, as seen in events where flash floods displaced hundreds and landslides were triggered by heavy localized rains. Lake Cebu is also a protected watershed and environmentally rich area, adding to its natural features which influence local weather patterns. Thus, while Lake Cebu is one of the safer places in the Philippines in terms of direct typhoon hits due to its inland and mountainous geography, it is not entirely free from heavy rain-related hazards. Safety is relative, and local authorities still actively monitor weather conditions and respond to rainfall-induced emergencies. 4. Sarangani Province. Another southern beauty, Sarangani offers endless coastal charm without the constant storm watch. It's where you can leave your umbrella at home. Sarangani Province is considered one of the safest places in the Philippines in terms of natural hazards like typhoons, primarily because it has a very low exposure to typhoon winds and storm surges. This low hazard exposure is a major factor contributing to its safety ranking regarding typhoon impact. Specifically, Sarangani ranks low in multi-hazard exposure, including typhoon risk, meaning typhoons rarely hit or severely affect the province. The province's geographic location in the southern Philippines, Mindanao region, places it outside the usual path of typhoons that mostly hit the northern and central parts of the country. For example, in a hazard risk assessment, Sarangani scored very low in exposure to typhoon winds, ranked 67 out of 84 provinces assessed, with a score of 0 indicating minimal risk, and storm surge, ranked 31 out of 84 provinces, which aligns with why typhoons do not typically hit here. While Sarangani exhibits some social vulnerabilities such as gender inequality and economic constraints, and weaker coping capacity in healthcare and energy, it remains less affected by natural typhoon hazards compared to many other provinces in the Philippines. This relative safety from typhoons leads to its reputation as one of the safer areas for travelers and residents alike concerning weather-related disasters. In summary, Sarangani's safety from typhoons is due to very low hazard exposure resulting from its geographic location in the southern Philippines, rare typhoon landfalls in the area, and measured low scores of risk from typhoon winds and storm surges. 3. Sultan Kudarat. This agricultural heartland enjoys calm weather most of the year, making it perfect for slow travel and cultural immersion. Its position on the southwestern section of central Mindanao, bordered by mountain ranges and coastal lines that face the Celebes Sea and the Moro Gulf, shelters it from the typical typhoon paths that usually affect the eastern and northern parts of the Philippines. Most typhoons in the Philippines originate from the Pacific Ocean to the east and travel westward, primarily hitting the eastern seaboard and central part of the country. Since Sultan Kudarat lies on the southern and western side of Mindanao, it rarely experiences the direct effects of these storms. The presence of mountain ranges, Alip and Daguma ranges, that can act as natural barriers. Its coastal exposure facing the Celebes Sea, where tropical cyclones are less frequent compared to the Pacific side. This combination of geographic factors contributes to Sultan Kudarat being relatively free from typhoon impacts, making it one of the safer places in the Philippines regarding typhoon threats. However, it may still be vulnerable to tsunamis from the Celebes Sea and possibly other weather-related events, but typhoons specifically are uncommon there. 2. Taytay. Welcome to the southernmost province of the Philippines. Typhoons don't bother coming this far, leaving Taytay's waters calm and skies clear. It's untouched, authentic, and unforgettable. Specifically, studies and assessments have shown that Taytay ranks extremely low in exposure to typhoon winds and storm surges, with a score close to 0 for typhoon wind risk and very low for storm surge risk, making it among the least affected provinces by typhoons in the Philippines. However, this safety from typhoons does not mean Taytay is free from all natural hazards. It is still classified as having high risks for other hazards like cyclones, typhoons/hurricanes from another perspective, and tsunamis due to its coastal location. There is more than a 20% chance of potentially damaging wind speeds related to cyclones and a high tsunami hazard probability in the next few decades. So these risks are still relevant for planning and safety measures. The reason for Taitai's relative typhoon safety mainly stems from its southern location in the Philippines, far from the usual path where most typhoons make landfall, which is typically further north or northeast in the Philippine archipelago. In summary, Taitai is relatively safe from the brunt of typhoons because it lies outside the typical typhoon belt of the Philippines, receiving very low typhoon wind and storm surge exposure. However, it still requires attention for cyclone and tsunami hazards due to other environmental factors. 1. Cagayan de Oro, Northern Mindanao. It's the perfect balance of urban convenience and outdoor adventure. Cagayan de Oro in northern Mindanao is not typically considered one of the safest places in the Philippines where typhoons do not hit. In fact, it has been severely affected by typhoons and tropical storms, notably Typhoon Washi, locally known as Sendong, in December 2011, which caused devastating flash floods and landslides, killing over 1,200 people in the area. This event demonstrated the city's vulnerability, especially because it is located near mountain ranges and coastal areas where heavy rains runoff can cause floods. The belief that typhoons rarely hit Mindanao is common, but Cagayan de Oro has experienced significant damage from storms. The city suffers from flash floods induced by typhoons because of heavy mountain rain and river basins overflowing rather than being directly hit by the typhoon's main force like in northern Philippines. The topography makes it vulnerable to flooding and landslides during heavy rains brought by tropical storms. Thus, while typhoons may not frequently make direct landfall in northern Mindanao compared to Luzon or the Visayas, Cagayan de Oro is still highly vulnerable to typhoon-induced flooding and disaster events. The city's risks stem primarily from its geographic and hydrological conditions, not from being outside the typhoon belt. In summary, Cagayan de Oro is not a place where typhoons don't hit, but rather a region vulnerable to the associated hazards like flash floods and landslides caused by typhoon rains and their runoff. It has experienced deadly typhoon impacts, underscoring that it is not among the inherently safest areas from typhoon hazards in the Philippines. And yes, that secret paradise I mentioned earlier? It's Taytay, remote, peaceful, and so far off the beaten path that you'll feel like you discovered it yourself. But typhoon safety is just one part of the story, because there are also places in the Philippines where you can experience storms, but in the most beautiful and thrilling way possible. That's for another video. If this list gave you new travel goals, hit that like button, share it with your travel buddies, and subscribe for more hidden travel gems and culture shock moments from around the world. See you in the next adventure.